Welcome to this video on absolute value. Absolute value. So in this video we're going to talk about absolute value, and it says find the value, and this is read the absolute value of 8. And what is that value? Let's draw a number line. And absolute value can be thought of as the distance from 0 to the number that we're concerned about. In this case it's 8. And the distance is always going to be either a positive number or 0, so never negative. So distance is never negative. Therefore the absolute value will never be negative. And in this case, it's 8 units from 0 to 8, so the absolute value of 8 is 8. How about the absolute value of negative 11? Well, negative 11 is over to the left of 0, and it's over 11 units. The distance from 0 to negative 11 is 11 units. And so, therefore, the absolute value of negative 11 is 11. Next, what is the absolute value of 0? How far away from 0 is 0? Well, it's 0. On the next problem, it reads find the possible values for x, and we have the absolute value of x equals 4.7. So we would like to know what number or numbers are a distance of 4.7 away from 0. Well, if we move 4.7 units to the right of 0, we would be out here at 4.7. So that's one number that's 4.7 units away from 0. Another number that's 4.7 units away from 0 is negative 4.7. So there's actually two numbers that are 4.7 units away from 0. By the way, I don't think we've defined yet what this x is. X is a variable, and you've probably seen these before, but we'll just state that a variable is nothing more than a letter that represents a number or represents numbers. So a variable is a letter that represents a number or numbers. And in our case, we found that the absolute value of 4.7 and negative 4.7 both equals 4.7. And so we have two numbers, negative 4.7 and 4.7, that if you take the absolute value of either one of those, you get 4.7. On the next problem, what are the possible values of x that would give us negative 6/5 rather? And remember what we set up above, that the absolute value is never negative, so there isn't any number that would give us that. So there's no solution. Next, we would like to plot the set of integers where the absolute value of a is less than 6. Well, 0, the absolute value of 0 is less than 6. So is the absolute value of 1. And so is the absolute value of 2. All of these, the absolute value of 3, that's less than 6. And notice these are all of a distance less than 6 from 0. How about negative 1? Well, yeah, the absolute value of negative 1 is 1, and that's less than 6. as is the absolute value of -2 and -3, -4, absolute value of -4 is 4, that's less than 6, and -5. And not -6 because the absolute value of -6 is 6. Notice that these are all 6 units away from 0, every one of our integer points. The next problem is slightly different. It says, where is the absolute value of a less than or equal to? Less than or equal to 6. And I don't believe we've seen that sign yet, but that's what it means. And so we could put all the numbers that we've plotted before, because all of those numbers are less than 6, the absolute value. And the new part is that it could be equal to 6. And the absolute value of 6 is 6, so we want to include that. And the absolute value of -6 is also 6. The next problem is we want to plot the integers where the absolute value of a is greater than 6. Well, we don't want to include what we've included before. We want distances away from 0 that are greater than 6. So 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11. And that pattern continues, so we put 3 dots out at the end there. All of those have absolute values that are greater than 6, as does -7 and -8 and -9 and -10. The absolute value of -10 is 10. That's greater than 6. And so on. So we put 3 dots out at the end of that one. Next problem says to use the less than, greater than, or equal to sign to make a true statement. First thing we need to do is actually write down what is the absolute value of -4, that's 4, and what's the absolute value of -8, that's 8, and then think of this as an arrowhead that you want to point to the smaller of the two numbers, so we use the less than sign on that one. Here the absolute value of -7 is 7, as is the absolute value of 7, and of course 7 is equal to 7, so that's equal. The absolute value of -10, what's that? That's 10. And the absolute value of 5 is 5. Make sure that your inequality sign points to the smaller of the two numbers, so we'll use the greater than sign. The absolute value of -10 is greater than the absolute value of 5. The next one, the absolute value of 10 is 10. And then over here we have the opposite of the absolute value of -11. So let's write down the opposite. And what is the absolute value of -11? That's 11. And the opposite of the number 11 is -11. Once again, we'll make our arrowhead point towards the smaller of the two numbers. -11 is smaller than 10, so we'll use the greater than sign. That does it. See ya.